is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be removing the intake manifold on this Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 8. But first, as some of you might remember, in the last episode we did take out the turbo on the car. It does not look great. It is definitely hurting. I believe it does have blown oil seals, as I've talked about in the past, since there's a ton of grease and oil in the compressor housing and the outlet for the cold side of the turbo. Other than that, what we have been working on is bolt restoration. Drop that bolt, and you can tell it's definitely getting cleaner. It's more silver now. I have been working on this bracket, and so far these brass wire wheels, these are the truth. But with that being said, why don't we go ahead and jump on this intake manifold removal. Okay, so here we are in the engine bay. So there are a couple of prerequisites that we've already taken care of in prior videos. Some of them being you need to unbolt the wiring harness from these brackets, take the connectors off for the injectors, and there's a few other sensors over here that have to be unplugged, taken to the side. There is a vacuum line over here that has to be taken off of a hard line that runs across the valve cover. That has already been done. We have the cable for the throttle. That's already been taken off because I'm restoring the bolts. Other than that, afterwards, what we have to do is take the dipstick out, remove this fuel rail, remove the injectors, and that should give us access to the studs and the bolts that are holding the intake manifold to the head. The first thing we're going to do, though, we're going to jump on taking this strut tower brace off. It's just 6 bolts, 3 there, sorry, 8, and then 2 right here. So I'm going to jump on that right now, and we'll get moving. Let's go ahead and hope none of these break. First one's good, second one's good, third one's good. This one looks a little chewed up, so let's hope. Not too bad. And these guys are new, so it shouldn't be too bad. Got to throw in an extension to be able to clear the hood cowl, or the windshield cowl. Go ahead and get this guy off. Easy peasy. Alright, so with that out of the way, we can kind of get a better look down there. You can see things are not looking so great. They're pretty dirty. I do believe it is from the valve cover. It did not seem like when I took it off that it was seated very well. I don't think that it was actually sealing. I think a lot of oil was kind of spraying out the valve cover and getting all over the back end of the motor and on the front. You can see there's just a lot of like grease and grime. But so we're gonna go ahead, keep moving on. I'm gonna start trying to take off this fuel rail and keep this project moving. Something I forgot to mention, and I figured I would just show, is that the throttle cable is connected here to the butterfly for the throttle body. So in order to get that off, the cable runs down here and comes up. All you have to do is you go underneath, you take the cable, and you kind of take it out like with slack, then you just push it right out, and then it'll come out. Okay, so we got the throttle cable disconnected. Now the next step is going to be taking off a couple of connectors so we can move this entire harness out of the way. We have a few points of contact, one right here, one in the back. We've already taken the map sensor off, so that's all set. There is one runoff that goes from here over to here. Once we get all those disconnected, we should be able to move this whole wiring harness out of the way. But fair warning, do be careful when you're taking these connectors off, because these cars are old. And if you watch any videos of anybody working on an Evo, you're gonna hear them say that everything breaks. So just be really careful. All right, so a couple of these connectors, real simple. This one's just a push connector. Pop that off. This guy in the back, I believe also just a push. Yes, it is. This one over here, and this one right here. They're actually held on by a little metal, it almost kind of looks like a paper clip that keeps them seated in place. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to take one of those out. Okay, so this is what I'm going to be using. It's just a 90-degree angle pick, nothing special. But all you got to do is, if you can see, if I can get out of the way, right here, there's a little clip that's keeping it in. You can kind of see it's metal, and really all you do is just get this little guy in here, pull up, and you should be able to pull that guy right out, like that. So we're just going to go ahead and do it again on this other side, and we can keep moving. I do stand corrected. There is one more sensor right here. It's the throttle position sensor. You're just going to unplug that, and then right in the back there's just one plastic clip that's like holding it to the back of the manifold. So I'm going to get that done, and we'll be able to move this out of the way. Now, I do believe that anyone who's watching a video about how to take the intake manifold off of a Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 8 probably already knows how to do it, but from case for anyone, maybe if it's their first time, this type of harness, all you do is you got to push, there's ears on each side of it, you just got to push them together, push them in, and then you'll be able to slide that right off that bracket. Quick update to where we're at. This guy right here is the very last piece that's holding this wiring harness to this part of the motor. This guy right here is broken. It came that way when I bought it. So instead of, it is secure though, so instead of trying to take it off and maybe break it even more, all I'm gonna do is remove this bracket. It's just one 12mm bolt here and two 14s back here. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump on that, and hopefully we'll be able to get this guy moved out of the way soon. All right, we got that harness out of the way. It is sounding really old and crunchy. You can see, like I was saying before, you have to be careful when taking connectors out, because this is how I got the car, with absolutely every one of the injector connectors being broken. So luckily I bought new ones, and I'll get those repinned soon. But having taken off that bracket, you can just see just more grease and oil all coming from where the valve cover wasn't actually sealed, because it wasn't really torqued down. So all that's really left now to get out of our way would be the fuel rail and to get the injectors out, and then we'll be able to take this guy out because we'll have access to the studs and bolts that are holding the intake manifold in. This guy right here is going to be our return line coming from the fuel rail, and then this guy right here is our feed, goes over to the fuel pressure regulator and feeds the fuel to the rail. So I'm going to go ahead and try and disconnect those. The car hasn't been run for a while, so there should be no fuel pressure. If in fact you were driving the car and you're gonna go do this, you probably would want to pull the couple of fuel pump fuses and run the car until it dies so you can relieve the fuel pressure. Otherwise, you can either clamp off the hoses or you can shoot fuel all over the place. But with that, we're gonna go ahead and jump back on it and get this fuel rail off. Okay, and I'm back. Different day, same me. We are gonna jump back on getting this fuel rail off the Evo, and hopefully taking these bolts out of the intake manifold and being able to remove it without breaking anything. But first, I have another public service announcement. Hello, and welcome back to another public service announcement with me. It's gonna be a little bit of a story time today. I woke up early this morning and decided to go to the gym early so that I could get home a little bit quicker and try to work on the cars. But when I was there, I decided to text my wife and ask her to have my son, who likes to help me out with the cars, turn on my media tumbler. So he did, as a nice son would. They went out, left for the day, came home from the gym, opened my garage door, and I was thinking, like, why is my garage door making so much noise right now? It's not until I got out of the car that I remembered I asked him to turn the tumbler on. Start hearing it, and I'm realizing things just aren't quite right. So what happened was, last night I looked at some bolts that I had been running, and I did not screw this nut on all the way. So when he turned it on, it was going, they left, and the nut had backed off actually, and it shot media all over the garage. All the bolts went flying everywhere. So moral of the story here is, make sure every single time you take that lid off and put it back on, just tighten it down all the way. I got lucky, I had just put brand new media in, so it didn't shoot dust all over the place, because last night I cleaned it out and there was a ton of dust at the bottom of the bowl. So just a quick public service announcement, make sure you always tighten that nut down. And that is all. Now back to the Evo. So in order to get the fuel rails off, it's not looking too hard. There are a couple of lines we have to take off right here. They're coolant lines for the throttle body. So those are just either, I'm not sure what size they are. I'm just gonna use the screwdriver to get those off. Then over here you got two 10mm bolts. Right here you have these two brackets holding the fuel rail in place. Those are just 12mm bolts. And then on the other side here, you have two 10mm bolts. So I'm gonna throw it on a time lapse and try to get this done pretty quick. right, so that wasn't too bad. Got it done pretty quick. Quick update though, the passenger side of the fuel rail, the two 10 millimeters that I was talking about, you actually don't need to remove those in order to get the fuel rail out. So went ahead, did that. I did go back in, took off these two coolant hoses for the throttle body, so it's out of the way. Really all that should leave as far as I know, but I'm sure I could find some stuff along the way. There's a couple of bolts up here, and then I believe there's, yeah, a couple down here underneath the manifold to be able to get it out. So, ready to try to take the intake manifold out. The fuel rail did have a little bit of fuel in it still, obviously, because it's just, you know, horizontal and there's no way for it to drain. But I am gonna share with you something I think is kind of funny that happened. So initially I brought the fuel rail over to my workbench. That's where I started realizing that it was kind of leaking a little bit. So what I did was I just held it upside down and poured it into one of like the solo cups that I was using for the vinegar soak on the bolts I was trying to restore. And I came back over to get a screwdriver to take off those hoses over there, and I noticed there was gasoline on the bench. So I was like, okay, there's still some in the fuel rail. Let me grab that, put it upside down on paper towels. So I looked, and that's when I realized, and I found this guy. Probably not my best move, but I didn't even think about the fact that this super old denatured gasoline could in fact eat through the plastic cup, and it did. I took the paint off the cup, left it on my workbench, but I mean, it obviously was pretty easy to clean up. It just smells like gas in here a little bit, but little fun fact, don't put it in a solo cup. Okay, so lost the hoodie. So you know the weather must be getting nice. So we are gonna keep moving forward with taking the intake manifold off. A couple of things I did off camera. I did remove the bumper just to give me a little bit more room to stand closer to the engine. What else did I do? I came over here. I did take the lines off for the heater core. One from the back of the thermostat housing, one from down here from the crossover pipe. Took these two lines for the throttle body off. Gonna move them out of the way. It's just gonna make it a little easier because these can be kind of a pain under here to get to. So it should make it a little bit easier for me to break those bolts free. Hopefully nothing actually breaks. So I'll probably go ahead, throw it on a time lapse. The only other things that I have to do in order to be able to remove the intake manifold should be the brake booster line here. And then other than that, maybe the dipstick tube just for clearance. But other than that, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. This guy's already off because I took a bracket off. So then it leaves 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 underneath. So, or 4 underneath actually. So we're gonna jump on that and hopefully nothing breaks. Okay, so luckily wasn't that bad. All the bolts broke free pretty easily, came up pretty easily. This one under here, for some reason it just took a little bit more persuading, but I will say taking all those coolant lines off really made it so much easier to try to get to those bottom bolts. And I want to just give a quick shout out to the 1/4-inch ratchet. I feel like 1/4-inch ratchets, they don't get used as much as they should, but when you have a tight space and you need something to work, these things come in handy. Obviously they're included with every kit, but they don't get enough love. But with that, I'm gonna go ahead and try and take this manifold off. I will say the only thing that I didn't remember would be down here for the alternator bracket. There is a bracket that bolts onto where the intake manifold is, this nut over here. So I just had to take that nut off, and once I took the bottom bolt out for the manifold, the bracket just came right off. With that, let's try and take this guy off, hopefully without breaking anything. It is looser. I feel like I might have missed a bolt or something. Okay, so a couple more things I didn't realize. Under here, there's 2 bolts that are holding into like a bracket that bolts to the coolant pipe underneath it. I think it's just for like holding it up purposes. I was trying to see if I could untwist this dipstick tube out of the way. I broke the dipstick top. Luckily I have a replacement already, so it's really not a big deal, but kind of stupid. But I think I should be good to pull this off now. Yep, looks like I am. So I'm just gonna pull out that way. Gasket's coming off with it. And then there might be some coolant left in here, so it could get a little bit messy, but should just come right out now, and then I'll show you guys. So there are a couple of things I think I missed. There's a connector down here, which I will take apart. I'm gonna go through, figure out the rest of the little lines that I missed, and then I'll run through it with you guys. All right, I do think I have everything now. Take it off. Let's see if I get hung up on anything else. All right, I do in fact have it out. Okay, so a couple of things that needed some persuading. This guy right here connected to another bracket that had a sensor on it that was connected to the coolant pipe. Couldn't really get at the coolant pipe to disconnect it, so I just undid these two 10 millimeter bolts, and then there's another bolt that holds, or it's a nut that holds that bracket onto here. Had to take that off. These two guys right here are what was actually holding the intake manifold in, stopping me from bringing it out. So it's just two 14 millimeter bolts you have to take out from directly under it, and it leads to like a black bracket that goes down to that coolant pipe. Other than that, it really wasn't too bad of a removal, but happy with the progress, happy with the way things are going. So now that we have the front manifold off, the intake manifold, the back off, it's hard to see, but let me see if I can get my light down in here. You can see it's not too clean, it's pretty dirty. So this opens up a lot of room for me to be able to try to get things fixed up and cleaned up and de-rusted, and just keep on moving with the project that is the Evo 8. Gonna keep going with the account of the week. Again, not quite sure who it's gonna be, but I'll put it right here. Boo. So the account of the week is going out to a friend of mine, Cindy. If you've been to any of the Massachusetts Cars and Coffees last year, you might have noticed a Lexus IS 350 with a box, almost a case of rubber duckies in front of it. That's gonna be her. She goes to a ton of different shows, and honestly, she's a great part of the community. I forgot to shoot an outro, so here I am doing it right now. If you like the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Do all those things because it really does help grow the channel. And until then, we will see you in the next one. So peace out and keep wrenching.